minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Dzień dobry Państwu, kłaniam się serdecznie, Dariusz Siemianek z tej strony. Bardzo miło mi Państwa powitać na kolejnym webinarium Installingu i English Teaching. Jak Państwo doskonale wiecie, formuła jest prosta. Robimy webinaria dla osób, które uczą się tego, jak lepiej uczyć języków. No i właśnie w tej formule mamy dzisiaj naprawdę wyjątkową osobę. Niektórzy z Państwa już ją znają. Pani doktor, dokładnie, pani doktor Urszula Kropaczewska jest z nami, doktor nauk społecznych z zakresu pedagogiki, ale także filolożka filologii angielskiej, dydaktyki języków obcych, no wiele różnych kapeluszy. Trenerka, wykładowczyni, coach, autorka różnych publikacji dotyczących nauczania języków obcych, także od wielu, wielu lat dyrektorka Centrum Języków Obcych czy NKJO we Wrześni, obecnie dyrektorka Wielkopolskiego Centrum Kształcenia Ustawicznego we Wrześni. Naprawdę osoba super doświadczona, z ogromnym kapitałem intelektualnym, którym się z Państwem dzisiaj zechcę podzielić, za co jestem naprawdę ogromnie wdzięczny. Ja tylko jako prezenter z obowiązku dodam, że cała seria jest organizowana przez program English Teaching. No i program English Teaching dla tych z Państwa, co nie wiecie, to jest super fajna rzecz. Bardzo ciekawy program pozwalający na poprawę swoich umiejętności w zakresie uczenia języka angielskiego z różnymi fajnymi warsztatami. Zapraszam na stronę englishteaching.org.pl. Naprawdę fenomenalna sprawa. Co roku jest organizowany też zlot anglistek i anglistów, English Teaching Market. No w tym roku nie wiem, jak to będzie, ale na pewno nie można tego przegapić, jeśli byłby organizowany. No i oprócz tego mnóstwo różnych fajnych szkoleń, także zdecydowanie English Teaching bardzo polecam. A oprócz tego także przez program Installing. Installing z kolei to jest darmowy system do uczenia języka angielskiego, na który się można zarejestrować jako nauczycielka, nauczyciel. Rejestracja jest bardzo prosta, installing.pl/rejestracja PHP. No i to jest system do nauki powtarzania słownictwa, ułatwia bardzo kontrolę tego, jak się uczą uczniowie, jak zapamiętują, ale nie będę o tym wchodził tutaj też na naszej prelegentki Pole, bo wiem, że o tym też będzie wspominała, bo jest to związane z tematyką, a tematyka dotyczy rzeczy niebagatelnej, bo takiej, której każdy z nas używa, mam nadzieję, na co dzień, a mianowicie mózgu. No i w związku z czym, z racji tego, że mózgu należy używać, przekazuję głos naszej prowadzącej. Przypominam jeszcze tylko, że warto się zapisać na listę obecności. Webinarium, osoby, które uczą z Installingiem, wezmą udział w 3 przynajmniej webinariach w semestrze, dostają osobny certyfikat. Także serdecznie zapraszam i już się z mojej strony zamykam, oddając głos.
Dziękuję uprzejmie za wspaniały wstęp, za wspaniałe przedstawienie. Rzeczywiście dzisiaj porozmawiamy, drodzy Państwo, troszeczkę o mózgu, który warto używać, ucząc się języka angielskiego, ale oczywiście nie możemy zapominać o sercu, o uczuciach, bo to też jest bardzo ważne, natomiast dzisiaj rzeczywiście będzie o stylach uczenia się. Będę podawała Państwu troszeczkę teoretycznych rzeczy, chciałabym podać trochę teoretycznych rzeczy. Dlaczego warto troszeczkę o tych stylach porozmawiać? Ponieważ wtedy łatwiej nam będzie wykorzystać ćwiczenia i wiedzieć, dlaczego dzieci czy osoby uczące się z nami łatwiej przyswajają pewne wiadomości. Ja w momencie, gdy włączę prezentację, nie będę widziała czatu. Natomiast gdyby Państwo, mam włączony na Facebooku również prezentację, więc gdyby Państwo mieli jakieś pytania, to zapraszam do pytań i komentarzy na Facebooku. Ja będę od czasu do czasu tam zaglądała i będę odpowiadała na żywo albo właśnie w internecie na te czaty. Natomiast spotkanie nasze trwa około godziny i potem wrócę do Państwa, może jeszcze będą jakieś pytania, to postaram się na nie odpowiedzieć. Prezentacja nasza będzie w języku angielskim, So let's start. As you have probably noticed, I have been teaching English for so many years. Now I'm a teacher trainer, and I have been cooperating with IATEFL Poland mostly, where I am the coordinator for Young Learners Seek for IATEFL Poland. I also cooperate with English teaching, where I have conducted so many workshops, live and now online. And of course, I am also somehow incorporated into using InstaLink, to which I will come back today in the presentation of mine. Every teacher should look at some characteristic features of a learner. It is good from both the teacher and the learner or learners, because if we teachers know what kind of styles our learners represent, it's easier for us to organize exercises, and it's easier for us to understand why students may have some problems, why students may need more help from us, or why students don't need that much help in some fields of learning English. And it is also good for the learner or learners, because if they know what kind of a learning style they represent, they know which kind of exercises are easier for them, which kind of exercises may help them acquire some English better, and they may understand why they may have problems in some fields. And before we look at some characteristic features of a learner, we should decide what we want from our learners to achieve. Of course, we want our learners to be proficient language learners and to achieve the proficient level of English. But there are a lot of different things we can talk about, but I want to mention just two. If we want our students to achieve academic language proficiency, then the success students may achieve while learning English will be a little bit different, okay? And our expectations and the expectations of our learners will be a little bit different. And on the other hand, we have got some basic interpersonal communicative skills which we want our learners to achieve, and then it means that we want our
I think we're having a little bit of trouble. It appears as if you froze. I'm not sure, Ursula, if you can, if you're still with us, but it seems, are you with us?
You mean me?
Yes.
Yes. Can't you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear loud and clear now, but you disappeared. You froze for a sec. Sorry about it. So
sorry.
I'm retracting.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good now.
Yes. Okay, so we will talk now. We will talk about different learning styles. I mean, learning preferences, which can be defined as individual, habitual, natural, preferred way or ways of absorbing, processing, and retaining new information and skills. And learning styles are not only connected with learning English, they are generally connected with learning. So if we know the learning styles of our learners, we can help them learning things not only with English, but with other subjects as well. And there are a lot of different divisions, but today we will talk about learning styles like visual, auditory, kinesthetic or tactile, which are called haptic learning styles. And I will also give you some tips in the connection with cognitive learning styles, in which we have got field-dependent and field-independent language learners, in which we will have reflective and impulsive language learners. And I will also say just a few words about right brain dominance and left brain dominance, which can be also observed among our learners. And we will talk about the tolerance of ambiguity. It means the tolerance of change. So first, let's look at the field-dependent and field-independent language learners. Okay, when there is a learner who is felt independent, it means that the whole picture does not distract the learner from understanding what there is in the picture. So the learner looks at the picture generally. So if you ask a question, what can you see in the picture? The person who is a felt independent language learner will tell you the picture depicts a school, the picture depicts a wood, the picture depicts a field. Okay, so just first the person will start with the general idea of the picture he or she can see. On the other hand, if you ask a field-dependent language learner, what can you see in the picture? The person will start with looking at details more than a general view of the picture. So, how can you change if you have field-dependent or field-independent language learner? When students are given the exercise, find 10 differences between two pictures. The person who is field dependent will easier find the details and will easier find the 10 differences between the pictures. But the person who is field independent, while looking at the picture or while talking, will start with the general idea of a topic, with the general idea of a picture. So field independent language learners are more analytical, while on the other hand, field dependent language learner focus more on general meaning. They easier understand the feelings, they easier predict the ideas behind the picture, but they may have problems with separating ideas. So when they are to work, for example, with a text in which there are gaps, into which they are to put some words, a person who is field dependent language learner will have problems with that. Okay, so when we look at the communication, and we should find out that field independent language learners are better at drilling, better at focused activities, better at true-false exercises. The person who is field dependent will be better at communicative aspects of language learning. So they will understand the empathy, they will understand the feelings, they will understand the whole idea, the context of the text. Of course, we cannot say that it is better to be field independent or field dependent language learner, but both children and adults can be successful when we know that they are field independent or field dependent language learners. So those people who have problems with exercises, find 10 differences, should work more on such exercises. So, but first you shouldn't start with asking students to do or to find out 10 differences between two pictures. Maybe they should start with finding 2 differences, maybe 3 differences, then 5, 6, etc. Okay, and on the other hand, when you have got students who have problems with finding general clue, general idea, context of a text they have already read or the text they have already listened to, you should spend more time showing them how to find out the context, maybe by giving them 3 different contexts before they are to listen to a text or before they are to read a text, and then after listening or reading, you as a teacher should discuss with them which of the context they think is the best one for the text. Okay, so you give them a ready-made context, a ready-made ideas, and then later on they can find out their own ideas in the connection with the general view of a text. So people who are feel independent are more independent language learners, are generally more independent, but when we talk about language learners, we can also say that they are more independent, so they like individual work more than the work with groups, and they are more competitive because they want to be always the best, and they are self-confident. So while being asked a question, it is more possible that people who are feel independent will answer your question without any doubts, without any hesitations, and even if there are mistakes they can make, still they will try to answer your questions. Okay. On the other hand, people who are field dependent prefer working with other people, so they like pair work, group work, and they can learn a lot from others. Okay, so they are more empathic, they can understand feelings and thoughts of others, so they are not leaders. Okay, they are more sociable people. Okay, and then we can talk about reflective and impulsive learning styles which our learners may represent. A reflective learner may seem to be a little bit slower because the person thinks before speaking. So the person wants to be sure that he or she is right, that his or her answer is the correct answer. So they are more cautious, and they are more systematic in learning whatever, but in learning English or generally in learning languages. On the other hand, an impulsive language learner make up decisions very quickly without thinking. They may give you an answer to a question, and sometimes the answer is not the correct one, and when they say the answer, they don't think what they have already said, and they don't even remember what they have already said. So if there is a wrong answer, you should stop them. Of course, not all the time, but you should try to stop them, and you should try to make them repeat what they have already said. But impulsive language learners are also good learners because they take risks in learning language too. And we know as teachers that it is good when our students try to speak, even if they do not know all the words, because it is impossible to know all the words, even if they don't know all the structures, because it is impossible to know everything. So intuition also helps them be good language learners. And now when we talk about the brain, we talk, okay, sorry, I look at some questions. No, there are no questions. I can just see the people who are here. Now we will talk a little bit about right and left brain dominance, which is really important. And I love the theory which helps us understand the brain, and which helps us teacher understand the brain, and which helps us teacher understand the students in the connection with the behavior, the students behavior of our students. And you should remember that language is in the left hemisphere, but of course we do not only use the left hemisphere, but we also use the right hemisphere. So in the left hemisphere there is language, so speech is here. So here we have got words, we have got letters, we have got sounds, there is analytical part of the brain which is in the left hemisphere. So left hemisphere is responsible for listening, writing. Left hemisphere is responsible for calculating, because maths is also there. And in the left there is thinking as well. Thanks to the left hemisphere, we can work out the puzzles, we can work out crosswords, and those people who are left brain dominant are better at numbers. Okay, so such things are here. While on the other hand, in the right hemisphere, we have got pictures. We have got non-verbal sounds, and holistic procedure is here, empathy is here, feelings are here, music, rhythm is here, attention, colors. Right hemisphere can see the colors. Thanks to the right hemisphere, we can recognize the faces of our respondents, of speakers, of people, or our friends. Okay, and imagination is also in the right hemisphere. But as you are teachers, so you know that we need both hemisphere, because very often when we teach English to children, we use music. Okay, because we know that thanks to music, children learn easier and better. But when do they learn thanks to music? Okay, they learn a language which is in the left hemisphere thanks to music, which people acquire thanks to the right hemisphere. So there are connections between the right and the left hemisphere, and those connections should be accents. Those connections should be made as quickly as possible, as early as possible. So when a child is born, we should make them listen to music while speaking to them. We do it. We parents should show pictures when saying a word, which is represented by a picture. Okay, so we do it, and thanks to using both hemisphere, thanks to the accents, thanks to the connections we make, learning is better. Of course, there are some theories which can say that there is lateralization, and some people say that lateralization happens at the age of 5, and it means that after the age it is impossible to make any connections between the right and the left hemisphere. Some other theory says that puberty is the age when the lateralization happens, and then when we start learning a language after the age of puberty, we will never acquire it. Okay, so there are different theories, but we know that we should use both hemispheres so as to help our students learn and be better language learners. The right brain oriented people perceive visual, tactile and auditory images. They are better at processing holistic, so they can see the context, they can understand emotions behind the text, they can read in between the lines. The left brain oriented people associate learning with logic, with analytical thinking, with maths, and with processing. Okay, then we have got another division. When we talk about learning styles, we can talk about the tolerance of ambiguity. Okay, and a person who is tolerant of ambiguity means the change, is the person who is willing to accept new things, new creative possibilities. So a student who is tolerant of ambiguity can have a new teacher every lesson, can have a new exercise every lesson, can have a new book every lesson, can work in or can learn in a different room every lesson. So it's not a problem, but and the person is not disturbed by a change. On the other hand, we have got people who are completely intolerant of ambiguity, and they like only working with the same teacher. They don't like the change of the routine. They don't like the change of the teacher. They don't like the change of the book. And you are a teacher, so you know that too much tolerance of ambiguity is not good, and also not being tolerant of ambiguity is also not good, because it can block students from both can block students of learning. So we should make students be a little bit tolerant of ambiguity, but by giving students different access, by, okay, maybe presenting routine. So we should start a lesson always with a song. We should start a lesson always with, let's say, a gymnastic exercise. We should start a lesson always with checking the attendance. So students should know that there is always something which is the same, and in between the beginning and the ending of a lesson, their students should be prepared to have different kinds of exercises, should be prepared to use different books, different texts, different tools. Okay, so a change should be inside a lesson. Okay, so then we can make students on one hand be a little bit tolerant of ambiguity, and then we should make them sure that there is a routine which we stick to. Okay, and now some learning styles which you mostly divide your students into. Okay, so we can talk about visual language learners, auditory language learner, haptic language learner, in which where we have got kinesthetic and tactile language learners, and of course visual learners learn more from thanks to the eyes, so by seeing. So all the visual things are good for them. Then we have got auditory language learners who use mostly ears while learning, and of course it means that they are better at listening. They not may have that many problems at listening as, for example, visual learners may have. Okay, then we have got haptic learners who learn by touching and by moving their body. And haptic language learners, there we have got kinesthetic language learners who like moving their body, and tactic learners who learn more and the best from the crafts, so by touching, so hands-out activities. And of course, now we will sacrifice a little more time to visual, auditory, and kinesthetic or haptic or tactile language learners, and we will mostly talk about children, but you will see the exercises which I will show you in a moment are good not only for children, but are good for every language learners. And the most important thing which you teachers should keep in mind is that if you know that your students are visual language learners, you should know which exercises they are better at, which exercises they may not have problems with, and you should know which exercises they may have problems with. So then you should sacrifice more time to those exercises with which students may have problems. Okay, so you shouldn't avoid the exercises students are not that good at. If you, from time to time, you can ask your students to choose which of exercises they can do. And of course, then visual learning language learners will take out, I don't know, the pictures, or will want to do something with pictures. Then auditory language learners will prefer to work with a song. And then the tactile kinesthetic language learners will I don't know, choose puzzles. Okay, and those exercises, all those exercises you can find in installing, of course. Okay, but you cannot ask students and make students do exercises, only those exercises they want. Sometimes they should work with exercises they want, so they can choose, but from time to time you should also ask them to do exercises you know they may have problems with. But of course then you should give them more time. Okay, so for example, when you work with installing, there are a lot of different exercises which you can prepare for your students. So if you know what students you have, then you can prepare different exercises in the connection with the same words. So for some students you may have pictures, for others you may have pictures and words, and from the third group you may have just words they can hear. So a visual learner, generally learner, but we are talking now about language learner, prefers to see words which are written down. That's why we prepare pictures and we prepared word cards for our students. Okay, so when we ask them what's this, we show them pictures, they answer our questions, then we show them words and we ask them what's this, till they understand. And a visual language learner will quickly remember the word card. Okay, so global reading for a visual learner is easier, but among your students you for sure will have students who are kinesthetic language learners and who are auditory language learners. So when you show a picture, when you show a word, you say what the picture shows and what a word depicts. Okay, and then for kinesthetic language learner, you put in one row pictures, and in the other row you put words, and you ask students to make pairs from a picture and a word. And it is good for all the students, but kinesthetic language learners, when making a pair, when playing a memory game, will learn a lot. So all the students, I mean, a visual, an auditory, and a kinesthetic language learner may learn a lot. A visual language learner prefers to have a picture to view. So when you say a word, it is good to show a picture. Of course, then you may play the running exercise. It means in a classroom you put pictures or words and you say a word, so as a visual learner can make the association with a picture and a word he or she can hear. An auditory language learner make a connection between what he or she can hear with a visual representation, and a kinesthetic language learner can see you moving around the classroom. So again, when you play a running game, for all the students, there is always something. Okay? And then, of course, you ask students to stand up and look for a word you say. They have to find a visual representation of a word. And then a visual learner will easily find a picture. An auditory language learner will understand but may have problems with a picture. And a kinesthetic learner will also like the activity because he or she will be allowed to move. A visual learner is better at remembering some processes, some historical events, and a visual language learner closes his or her eyes to remember. So from time to time, you ask students to close their eyes, and then you say a sentence, then you tell a story, then you say a question, or then you say a word, and you ask students to make a picture of a word in their head. Okay, so it is good for everyone. What kind of exercise? What's missing? It's a very good exercise, because then a visual learner closes eyes and sees pictures or a picture very quickly. An auditory language learner hears a word and tries to imagine. So you teach an auditory language learner that they should see or make the images in their heads, and the kinesthetic language learner likes closing and opening eyes, because when opening eyes they can see some pictures face down. Okay, so then they can think. Visual learners are good at looking at others. So when there is a performance, and a visual learner will look at the performance without any problems. Kinesthetic language learner may have problems at observing students, so then they can act. Okay, and of course, a visual language learner prefers written instructions rather than auditory, but of course you should, rather than oral instructions, but when you ask students to read the instructions, you should also say the instruction. It may happen that first you give students instructions orally so they can just hear, then you ask them to read the instructions, and then you can ask them to repeat or to tell you in their words what kind of exercise, what kind of instruction it is, or you can ask them to repeat the instruction. Okay, a visual learner organizes everything in the connection with learning. So the desk of a visual learner is really organized. Okay, a visual learner likes reading because he or she doesn't have problems with recognizing words, sentences, etc. A visual learner is rather quiet, so may seem to be shy, but it's not like that, but may find. But a visual learner, when is not interested or when have problems with understanding what you, the teacher, tells the class, may easily find something to look at and not listen to the teacher. Okay, a visual learner likes sitting in front. And of course, a visual learner loves art activities, so loves painting, because everything which is connected with picture, so drawing, painting, sketching, etc. Okay, and here you have got exercises which can be used for visual learners, from which they will take a lot and more. So if you prepare some homework, it is good when you take into consideration those learning styles of your students, and then you can ask a visual learner to read a magazine, to find a magazine, to color something, to make a video, to watch a video, to make or draw a map, to bring a map, etc., etc., or to read a map. So because they are better at those activities, and then they will take pleasure out of doing them, and it will be easier for them to learn from those activities. But of course, in the classroom, you should use also all those activities, and then a visual language learner will not have problems with them, while the auditory or kinesthetic language learner may have more problems with them. Then auditory learner remembers better when he or she can hear, and auditory learners remember better when they say things aloud. So very often you can notice that students, while reading in silence, actually do not read in silence because they whisper. Okay, so then you know that he or she is auditory language learner. So those learners repeat things aloud. So you can prepare some exercises like that as their homework. Then they can just, I don't know, stand in front of the mirror, and then they can say something to themselves. Okay, auditory language learners loves discussing and loves saying, loves listening. So they love working in pairs, in groups, when they can hear a lot of people talking, a lot of sounds around. They love learning with the use of music. So when they write, they can hear the music at the same time, or when they write, they can even sing something. So how to make students use the music? So when you organize while the lesson a part of an exercise that is connected with, for example, drawing something, or I don't know, tracing letters or tracing words, at the same time you can play music for children. It can be a song in which there are English words, but then you can help auditory language learner learn something, but you also show students who are visual learners or who are kinesthetic learners, they can also use the music while learning, because the music makes us feel relaxed, and then it helps us. The problem with auditory learners is that they have problems with keeping silence. But on the other hand, they can be easily distracted when there is a sudden noise. Okay, so they can be distracted by the silence, and they can also be distracted by the noise. They may have problems with understanding written instructions. Okay, so you as a teacher again should say the instruction, make student read the instruction, and again check if they understand the instruction. Okay, and they remember better when you say something from them. So when you do a kind of a sandwich instruction, as I have already told you, then all the students may have something they will understand. Okay, they don't like sitting in front, or they sit in a place where they can hear better. So they may, sometimes when they are bored, visual language learners, when they are bored, look for something they can look at, but the auditory learners just talk to themselves or talk to others. And these are the activities which you can find your auditory learners be the best. Of course, discussion, some performing, singing songs, listening to songs, recording themselves or listening to recording. They are good at reciting. They are good at reporting. Okay, so they can be reporters. They can make videos. They can record they can record themselves performing. When they are older, they easily take part in debates, and they love pair work, and especially they love group work. So when there is a quite difficult, I don't know, set of vocabulary, you can ask them to work it out in groups, and then auditory language learners will be satisfied, and they will be for sure successful. Then tactile or kinesthetic learners have to make something, have to move, and they enjoy acting out. So they have to use hands, they have to use their whole body. So typical exercise for such students is a Simon Says exercise, or a spider and flies, etc., etc. So or gymnastic exercises. So when you want your student to listen to a song, you want them to understand, and you want them to satisfy their own needs and their learning styles. So then while listening to the song, they for example, move at the same time, like with the head and shoulders. Okay, can you imagine, I don't know, playing or singing head and shoulders a song without touching heads, shoulders, etc. Okay, it is just it is somehow so much connected that you cannot separate it. It helps all the students learn, because when they say head and they touch head, they better understand. They hear head, so auditory language learners remember. Visual learners look at other students touching their head, so they learn better. And kinesthetic language learners just sacrifice their needs and satisfy their needs of just doing something. Okay, so a lot of activities which involve using hands, which involve moving, like running out, I have already taught you. Kinesthetic language learners like tampering with things, so at least when they speak, they have to have something in their hands. They like to be active. Of course, the younger the children, the more tactile or kinesthetic children they generally act. So children are more active than adults. But still, if you have got kinesthetic learners and they are students, they at least will have to have a ball pen while talking to you, or they will just swing on a chair while talking to you, or while listening, whatever they do. Okay, they speak with the use of their hands. They speak with the use of the whole body. And you teachers know that we use activities where in which students will have to use their body. It doesn't matter, or regardless the style or styles they represent. Okay. Those students who are kinesthetic language learners like sitting in places from which they can very quickly move out, let's say. Okay. So what are the activities they are good at, and which of the activities we should use to make them learn better and, of course, be better? They are good at dancing. They are good at modeling. They like working with the board. So when you have got a whiteboard, then you can ask students from time to time to come to the board to write something. Okay, you can ask them to put pictures all around the classroom. They prefer working with a workbook because the workbook is full of different exercises in which they have to write something, in which they have to draw something, they have to match, whatever. There are a lot of exercises, okay? But they don't like a student's book because there are usually texts and there is nothing for them, of course, there. Okay, so but of course these are the exercises again for tactile or kinesthetic language learners at which they are better and which will make them be successful. But of course you know that you should incorporate all the exercises so as students will maybe not learn a new style, but will also take out as much as possible from every exercise they can do while the lesson. Okay, so to conclude what I have already taught you, if you understand students' learning styles, you can prepare exercises that will satisfy them, that will make them be successful at learning a language, which will make them be motivated to learn more, to learn harder, and which will make you be a successful teacher. Because a successful teacher is a teacher whose students are successful. So if students successfully complete exercises you have prepared for them, that's your success. Okay, you teachers should make students aware of the learning styles they represent, because then they can understand why they intuitively choose one or the other exercise, and they can on their own find out which make them learn easier, and which make them, or which of the exercises, which strategy here we say of learning will help them be successful. And students should also understand why they have problems, and they should know how to work out the problem. So when students read a text, you should ask them to underline, highlight the words they do not understand. You can ask them to highlight verbs with a green, let's say, ball pen, or you should ask them to underline verbs with a red one, adjectives with a yellow one, etc., etc. So they do not only read a text, but they should do something with a text. Then when they read a text, they can put down some words they do not understand. Okay, so they just copy some words. When they read a text, they put down the words they don't understand. Then you ask them to look up the meaning of the words in a dictionary. Okay, you can ask them to find out definitions to those words. You can ask them to prepare synonyms to the words. You can ask them to make sentences with the words. Okay, when there is a text with adjectives, you can ask students to change the text. For example, in the text there are adjectives connected with beautiful weather. So these are positive adjectives, let's say, and you can ask students to change the text and replace the adjective with their with opposite adjectives, with adjectives of the opposite meaning. Okay, so there are a lot of exercises. You can ask students to put down the words they do not understand, and you can ask them to ask somebody in class to explain the words. Okay, you can ask students to look for the words, look up the meaning at home, or you can ask them to look up the meaning here in the classroom with the use of a computer. So there is one text, and you can do a lot of different exercises with one particular text, so as you can satisfy and meet the needs of all the students who represent different styles. Of course, we teachers should also know what styles we represent, because you know that students who represent the same styles as we represent will learn better from us, and we will teach them better. But of course, we teachers should know how to teach all the styles and how to teach all the learners, and of course, all the learners, but also individual learners at the same time. So even if you know that students represent different learning styles, you cannot sacrifice too much time to only one style. Mostly we are visual learners, but it doesn't mean that students shouldn't listen so much. So we should incorporate the exercises during one lesson, during a set of a lesson, in which there will be some listening, reading, writing, speaking, a work in the connection with words, a work in the connection with grammar. We should also give students the amount of time, or the good amount of time, so as they can just communicate. We should give them time just for thinking. We should give them time just for resting during the lesson, because and for moving during the lessons. So then we will satisfy all the students, and we will make all the students be successful and satisfied with all the lessons, or the lesson they have already finished. When students do some tests, so when you prepare a test, in a test there should be exercises for all the students to be successful. So you cannot organize a test in which there is, for example, only a reading text. There should be also some listening, some reading, some writing, maybe something to draw, maybe some matching activity. And so, as you know, that all the learning styles will somehow will meet the expectations of ours. Because then, if you only sacrifice the test to the vocabulary work, then students who are kinesthetic language learner will not be successful at that. Or if you do not incorporate listening exercise in a test, students who are auditory language learners will not have something they are really good at. Okay, but of course, the brain is something that we cannot work out, that we do not know, but we know that the more we give students, the more possibilities, the more exercise, the more different kinds of exercises, the more different kinds of texts to listen, to read, different we organize lessons in different, we can organize lessons in different places. The more different places we organize our lessons, the better students will learn, because the brain will somehow be developed. Okay, so that's it. If you don't mind, please look at the YouTube of mine, where there are some lessons of mine for students, where I read books, when I tell stories to children, when I do some crafts for children with children, so you can easily incorporate them into the teaching of process of yours, and of course into the teaching process of your students. Okay, sorry. Okay, yes. Okay, I think now that's it from me. It's about 55 minutes. Have you got any questions you want me to answer, or there is nothing? No questions?
I don't see any questions from the audience, but feel free to drop it on the chat.
Okay.
Well, I think people are basically, flabbergasted. It's a fascinating topic, and I think obviously people are trying to process it. I think it is.
I am sure that all the teachers should understand students, and the more they know about individual students, the better teachers they will become. So it will help both the learner to learn, but also the teacher to teach. So that's why I think that the brain is really important to know. No questions, no comments? Just good evening and...
Well, as I said, I think, it's been very clear. It's been very informative. I really appreciate it. It's been a really great ride. And I think people are basically processing it, appreciating it. Yeah.
I hope.
As Ms. Oshka says, no questions. Thank you for an interesting presentation. It's been a great thing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for very important issues by all means. And yeah, have a great evening.
See you next time. Yeah,
see you next time. And everybody, see you in a week for the next.
So many facts. Okay. Oh, I hope not too many. Okay. But I wanted to incorporate as many as possible, but I think the presentation is on Facebook, so you can just look at it over and over again. Okay. So then you can find more information. It was valuable. Thanks. Okay. So it's good to hear good comments. Just thank you. And so see you next time as soon as possible. Okay. See you online or live as soon as possible, but we will for sure. Panie Darku, thank you for your help. It was really nice to know that there is somebody who is a technician here, and when there are some problems, then the person is ready to help. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everyone. Stopping now.
Yeah.